This is the series where we're building an application, taking it from the idea all the way to finish and launch. And just to recap, this is what we're building. It's a little feedback app. I'm not going to take you through. You can see the first video. I'll put a link maybe or something that pop up right now so you can see. Take the first video. It'll give you a walkthrough of the features we're going to create using React and Next.js, and there's a whole bunch of other libraries that we'll use. So let's dive right in. So I did the first video, which is an introduction. This video here is going to be about creating your first page with Next.js. We're going to set up the project a little bit, install some packages and dependencies, and then go right into creating our first couple of pages. So here we go. Let's start off. I'm in my repository. Last time we cloned it. It's checked out on my computer. I'm on master, and you can see there's not much in here. My license and readme. There is a few .env files that we'll need later that I'm keeping around, so I don't want to remove. But at this point, those things are empty. So we'll do here, my keyboard's over here, I gotta look sideways. I'm gonna use yarn. So let's do yarn init. Just start off the project. -y is gonna say automatic yes to everything. There we go. And it's gonna put a package JSON over here, so you can click on that. Let me see. I've created my repository here. It's got a main file, repository, URL, me, and then the license, which is great. From there, we're going to install some packages. So React, naturally. React DOM, we still need that. And next, that's it. 3 packages for now. So this React DOM, those are standard, and then the Next.js library, which is yarn install, or yarn add. Just yarn add. That would make more sense. Yarn add next. So let's enter that. Okay, so it's installed. And you can see that we have Next, React, and React DOM all up in there, the latest versions of each, and 9.3.1 in Next, which is some really cool features that we'll explore throughout these video series. Okay, first thing we're going to do is we're going to add a couple scripts in here by hand. I'm sure there's a tool to do this automatically, but we're just going to do it by hand. So we need start, and these are really easy to add because start is just next. Whoops, next. I can type next start. We have build, which is next build. And these 2 commands are used together. So start will look for the next build files in your local, and it'll use that to host. The other way you can do things, if you don't want to keep building and restarting, is dev, which kind of runs in dev mode naturally. So it's just next dev. It's going to run that build and start, but then do file watching and all that great stuff that we'd like to use for development. So I'll save this. Okay, so you're asking me, maybe I guess do this right now. Yarn dev, just to start up that server. It's going to run it. Oh my gosh, it can't find a pages directory. So the way Next works, and this is probably one of my favorite things, is it does routing for you. And it does routing for you through the file system, so you can add files in a pages directory, and each one of those files is actually going to become your page, your route. So let's go ahead and do that. I'll add a pages directory here. And inside of that pages directory, I'm going to add an index.js. And index.js is the same as saying your home page. Now inside of this index.js file, we have a bunch of interesting things. Typically what you'd want to do is import React right away. From React. Except that for pages, we don't need to. For pages, by default, they're already there, and so we can actually just start writing a function. A page in Next.js is as simple as exporting a component. So for example, I'm just going to do a basic export default, it has to be default export, that's key, anonymous function, basic anonymous component, and I'm just going to do something like an h1 in here that just says hello, welcome to wachstum.space. And I'll save that. Now we can run this. Here we go. Yarn dev. It's going to wrap my server is going to start. Okay. Compiled. So it compiles each page as we request it. So obviously this one here gets pre-compiled, which is lovely. When we request it, it's going to compile up. Oops, I have to click this option. There we go. There we go. Welcome to Wachstum.space. I said that all weird. Wachstum.space. So you can see that any changes I make here now, let me put them side by side just so you can see. Boom. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to say welcome to, and replace this with the second YouTube. Whoops. Video. Save. And you can see it auto updates, which is lovely. Right over here. Good. Okay. Now, one thing you might be wondering is now that I've created this page, it's not styled at all, and we'll go into styles now. So what we're going to do is we want to style this page a little bit. But as you can see, we're going to start creating more and more pages. It's not just one page that we host in this index. So we want to be able to share styles across. And there's a couple different ways of doing that. Next.js comes bundled with styled-jsx. And the way we add that, which is super nice, let me just put this put this full screen now so you can see. I'm going to add just a fragment around here because I'm going to put two components next to each other. We have to have something in the way to wrap it without adding extra divs, so I'll use that. I got into some trouble before. You can use an array as well, but I got into some trouble before with arrays. So we'll use this, and then I'm going to add a style tag. The key being I'm going to add a JSX property to that, and inside of here I can just put template literal, and I can now just write CSS. So if I want to target, I'm going to put a class name on this. Class name equals, and I'll call it just like title. I can go in here and I can say dot title. Boom. And something just super easy. I'll just change the color to blue. Bam. There we go. And let's take a look at our. There we go. And the color is blue. Now let's take a peek inside of here. So what you can see is in development you'll include this nice class name, but in production you get this nice hash here that is unique to this file. So when I use style.jsx, I can't actually share any of the styles between components because they get this unique hash so that we don't get collisions. If you wanted to, and I'll show you this a bit later, you can use this global function here, and that'll target the global style sheet. Let Next know that this is actually targeting some component outside of this file, and I can go and edit that. The other way of doing it is not doing this, and say I want to have, this is my home page, I want to share styles, and I'll show you a way that I like to do it, but for this one, you can just add global, global to it like this as a property, and that lets style.jsx know that this actually is targeting your whole site as opposed to, if this component is loaded, the whole site as opposed to just these components. It's a bit more difficult to deal with, right? Because then we have to worry about collisions happening for these names, as opposed to just saying, this is localized to this file, don't worry about it. Perfect. This is not the way I love to do styling. I will include definitely page styles like this for individual pages because there is unique things that we're going to see across different pages I want to include, similarly to components, which I'll show you in another video. But what we want to have is a way of, like our fonts, our base colors, some base measurements. We want to have those across all of our pages just kind of automatically there. And my favorite thing to do is use CSS variables, just because they're simple. Like you can go from here in any file and you can just say var primary, and that'll let you know that it's using the primary color, and we can go and change that in one main file, and we'll all be happy. So let me go ahead. I'm just going to delete this. Boom. We don't need this anymore. We'll keep that title there, just for fun. And I'm going to go ahead and add a new file here. So Next.js is sort of like, the layout is sort of like any other project you've used before. We're going to create a components directory. Components. And inside of that we can include a bunch of components, naturally. And those components can be used within any of our pages or any of those components, and they can still be loaded into the pages that we create. So I'm going to go ahead and create a component. I'm going to call it global style. Let me try to spell this right. Global styles.js. And this one I'll need to import React. It's only the pages or anything in the pages directory that actually allows you to not import React, but it still imports it for you. Dependency injection style. Good. Okay, we'll export default here. This is just going to be a wrapper component that I include to allow my default style sheet to be kept away from my pages directory, but included in all of my pages, and I'll show you how I do that. So it's going to be a similar function. It's going to take in children, because we will need to render some children in it. Do we? We don't. I'm lying to you, 100% straight up lying to you. What am I going to include? I'll use circle brackets so I'm not returning anything, is a global style sheet. So we'll do style.jsx, I'll add global, and then JSX in there, boom, and then I'll add my styles, and I'll do a bunch of things. Let me just take a look at what I've already done, just so I don't mess up here. Oh my goodness, I'm telling you fully wrong. I'm telling you fully wrong. I do want to have children in here. Boom, boom, and then we'll just render the children right here. Just then we're attaching this global style sheet along with the rest of the application, and I'll show you how to do that in just a second. Good, so let's do some things like target the body, which will be good. I always like to add a couple things to the body. This is sort of like a reset CSS stuff. You can include different things for that. And what I'm going to do here is margin 0, padding 0. And what we should actually include is what's it called? There we go, box sizing, border box. And we'll actually do that for everything. I want every single thing to have box sizing, border box. There we go. A couple things we're going to want to do is add some fonts, some base fonts here. We'll do that following. There's no need for you to watch me do this. So base fonts, base colors. We're going to actually we'll add in those CSS variables. So we'll add a root over here to allow us to put in some CSS variables. And you can define them anywhere, but we'll put them in the root. We'll have a foreground color, which is like your text and things that will be sitting in the foreground. I'm just going to use basic black for this one. Good. Did I do too many zeros? No. We'll have a background color, which will be white for us. There. We'll have a primary color, which in our case is this odd green color. 6BC 3B9. There's our, perfect. And then we'll do a secondary color. Secondary. And this would be that yellow you see, FFC1, 2F. And we'll have lots of other colors in here, just complementary, different grays, that sort of things that can help us have pop. But for now, let's leave it as those 4 colors. Good, so we kind of just defined this global style sheet. Anything we want to be global, accessible, or styled, like if you want to style H1s, for example, or all of our H's, H1, H2, H3, blah, 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 we can style them here. And I will, in the base style sheet, which I'll give you a tour of when I complete it, you'll see that I style H1s with a specific font, all of our headers with a specific font, and then all of the other body tags get this other font. That way we can just have a nice separation without having to do too much work. So once I've done this, we're going to head into that page directory again, pages directory. There's 2 special components that Next.js allows you to use, and we're going to cover one of them. It's called _app, _app.js. And this component is special because it actually, there's a couple components, document and app, _document, _app. You can take a look at them on the documentation. We're not going to need to touch _document for this one. But _app is going to allow us to add additional things to render on every page, because this is where the rendering tree starts for Next.js. So we're just going to export a default function here. Boom, it's going to take in a component. And I believe it takes in page props. Boom, let me just check to make sure I'm not lying to you about page props, where that comes from. I got it right the first time. That's amazing. And I'm going to return some React components, just like I'm doing everywhere else. Boom, boom. Here we go. Now, if I wanted to just continue to render the page, component, it's going to look like this. I want to pass all of the page props right through to that component. And this is just going to render our app. Nothing special in here. And if you're just doing this, we don't need this component. Right? We can take a look here, refresh. This is still rendering perfectly fine because of that. Now what we want to do is actually pull in our global style sheet. The global styles from, and we'll go up a directory, bring pages to our components. Components. You'll see this through all this series, and my spelling is just atrocious. And then global styles. So pull that in, and we're going to render the component within the wrapper of the global style sheet. Styles. Oh. There we go. So we go over here, refresh. So nothing's crazy happened. Let's just target the H1s, or so we can see that it's actually being applied. So we'll go back on that global style sheet. Let's go over here and make a rule for all of our H's, H1s, H2s, H3s, H4s, H5s, H6s. even though I probably won't go that far. And we'll set all of those, we'll color to be, you know what, let's use our CSS variables for this one, var, and let's use our primary color. Whoop! There we go, primary color. And render this. It's not working. I wonder if I need to restart the server because I've added new pages. Sometimes it works for me, sometimes it doesn't, that you need to restart the server. Oh no, I have a mistake. What did I do? Return, oh, I spelled return wrong. Of course I did. There we go, okay. Let's see. There we go, and then it accepts our global style sheet. So if you add a new pages directory, it's possible you'll need to recompile just so that the next dev is aware of any of new files that you've added. Good, so naturally we won't continue with that color being there, but for now, just to show you that the global style sheet is doing what it needs to be doing, we included that in there. Perfect. So we covered kind of what app does, creating new pages. We'll create one more page here, and then we'll move on to, I think, the next video, which is just going to be implementing a bit more of these forms and things like that. So close this out, close this out. So in our pages, we want to have one more page, and that's actually going to have the majority of the code we want to see for application function to start happening. And that's the login page. So I'm going to do login.js in here. Similarly, it's just a page, so I can export some sort of default component like this. It's not taking any props for me. I don't need any props in here, but there is ways, and we'll see them as we move forward. There is ways to get props in on page renders. Okay, and then I'm going to return here. We'll just do another one of these lovely React fragments. And we'll do an H1 in here that just says login. And we'll do maybe just a button. Button. Login. There we go. And again, we'll style these later and use components later, but just for now. So let's see, is it going to pick it up if I go over here and do /login? Oh, it is. Lovely. You didn't have to refresh. So there you go. There's my login page. Just created a file, exports a default React component, and then it becomes a full-on page. Now, it's obviously annoying to have people type into there, so let's add a link for us to go there from our home page. So we'll go in here, we'll add an anchor tag, which is an href there that goes to /login. And we'll call it login. Naturally. There's our link, click on it, boom. There we go, straight into that lovely new page with our button. Now, you could also, Next.js has this lovely idea of saying, well, what happens if I have a button here, and it's called also login. How do I get it to go to my login page? Now, naturally, you could wrap it in some manner like you used to, in an A tag, but semantically, that's not great. So what we can do, actually, is we can import this lovely link component from next link. And it allows us to wrap any element that takes an on-click function with a link-like property. An anchor-like property /login. There we go. So differences here, as you can see when I hover over this one, the browser understands that this is a link and it treats it as such. This one, not so much. It treats it as a button, but when I click on it, it's perfectly well to go over here. And I don't know if you notice the speed difference between clicking on a link and then this button. Clicking on the button, having this link from Next allows them to pre-render the page for you, which makes those transitions significantly faster, right? So this one loads it from the server. This one here, click, immediate transition, because it's all React, right? Which is amazing. It just substitutes them out, which is lovely. So you can use buttons and link to do navigation for you as well. One last thing we'll briefly cover. One thing I want to include in my main page for every single one of my pages, which I'll override later, but for now we want to include it for all of them, is some sort of head elements. I want to include maybe the title of the page was Wachstum, and I have a tag here that says collect, it's complaining because I haven't imported that component yet, anonymous feedback. Other things, you want to include some meta tags, that's fine. This the lovely people who have read site also have a head component from next head that can allow us to input these sort of things. If you're doing some sort of tracking, you can import, you can add a script tag here, which is great to allow us to put in some sort of tracking software and that sort of thing. Any additional scripts you want to build in. So there we go, we have the title. And you can see up here, the title's there, but change it to like YouTube. YouTube. There you go, and it changes to YouTube. Now you can see this is in the login page, as well as, and I'll give this a refresh, as well as the home page. So home page, login page, they both contain this code because it's in the _app file. Perfect, so there's an introduction to a bit of the file system routing, how to do global styles with styled-jsx, and then some head and link components from Next.js. In the next video, we're going to look at adding a bit more to those pages in terms of components, and then getting into some creating some actual MongoDB forms. All right, thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. Stay up to date on these videos. Thanks. Bye.